Hello and welcome to the CEO1440 Show, the Mortgage Broker Builder Show, where we talk about all things mortgage, real estate, and really just taking advantage of your 1,440 minutes every single day. I've got a guest here that's got a lot of stuff I'm just going to actually have to read. New York Times bestseller, has published a lot of different books, People Work, Exactly What to Say, The Conversion Code back in 2016, new one in 2023. Got started cold calling for Lou Pearlman, founded the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears, NSYNC, probably every band you heard of. He's responsible for all those. We'll let him tell you that because I'm actually fibbing a little bit. But Quicken Loans, dotloop, co-founder of Curaytor, does all kinds of stuff. And he's been blowing up the internet with this little thing right here, talking exactly like he's talking smack about Zillow. So I don't know. People are always talking about the deep state. Maybe we've got the deep state in real estate. But our special guest this week is Chris Smith. He's coming at us from Orlando. Chris, how are you?
Good, John. Thanks for having me. And I love the 1440. That was going to be my first question is, what does that stand for? So I like that.
Yeah, so 1440. So we both worked at Quicken at the same time. He was there for a minute. I was there for a long time. But 1440 was actually a presentation I did about 2002. 2003, I got asked to speak. And I was talking about your 1,440 minutes every single day, and that you were the CEO. So my company is CEO1440. Essentially, this means that you and I are ultimately responsible for everything that happens inside of our 1,440 minutes every day. We can, blame others and boohoo this, but at the end of the day, it's down to just whatever we do.
Quicken wanted about 1,300 or 1,435 of those minutes.
Quicken has some high expectations. They set a relatively high standard.
They do.
Learned a ton there, as did you, or so you've said. But let's just I got so many things here. I got a bunch of different questions, but let's just kind of jump back. Give us just kind of a quick backstory about yourself. I know you've done all kinds of things, and some of the stuff that you're doing on social media right now, I see, right? That one post about Zillow's got, 8 million views now, which is super cool. That's how I found you. Then I found a bunch of stuff. So a little bit just kind of backstory about yourself, where you got started. FSU is in the top 10 also. So that's something that you're pretty happy about. You didn't expect that.
That's right, I'm from a small town called Polk County. Like seeing the cow behind you, reminds me of my childhood. People say that Polk is an acronym, people of little knowledge, trailer parks, cow pastures, chicken farms. And when you're from a small place, you either dream big and try to get out of there, or you end up there, your whole life. I don't judge either way, but I was one of the ones that wanted to get out. So when I went to college, Florida State was the furthest I could go, like physically, without paying out-of-state tuition. So I went there, and then I failed out right away. I failed out of the business school because I couldn't pass pre-calculus, and because I never went to class and I partied, and Florida State's a really fun place to go to school. But what happened is when I graduated, I'm like, well, I don't know. I've always had these grandiose thoughts. I've always thought that I am bipolar, which creates delusions and what you can accomplish. Like there's good parts of bipolar. People forget that. And so I moved to LA because I was going to be an actor. And being in LA, like I was on TV shows, I was in movies, like I was around all these Hollywood stars, partying at clubs with Vince Vaughn, like smoking blunts with Ja Rule, like hanging out with Tommy Lee. Like it was crazy. And the reason I was able to do that is my best friend went to UCLA, is a wide receiver. He ended up on the Philadelphia Eagles. He's very famous for a play called 4th and 26. His name is Freddie Mitchell. He was on the Eagles. And being in that environment, it was like, man, like you don't need permission in this life, like just go knock on the door, make the call, like I like a lot of Jesse Eitzler content where he's just like, just do it, So I've always just kind of had that mindset. Well, anyway, long story short, I moved back home, tried to open a business with Freddie that didn't work out. And so I was on the couch at my parents' house at 25, failed actor, failed entrepreneur, and I see this ad for a phone sales job in Orlando with a guy named Lou Pearlman. And so I, Googled him, and he is the founder of NSYNC. He created NSYNC. He created the Backstreet Boys, and he created Britney Spears. Orlando is the home of the boy bands, right? And so he had a company where you would do phone sales, and you were calling people that wanted to get discovered so that they could come to Orlando, spend a few days at a Marriott, and basically audition. Like American Idol, before American Idol, there was no YouTube at this time. There was no TikTok at this time. You know, the only way to really get discovered at that time was to go to LA or move to New York or something like that. And one of the funniest things is, you know, I think so much about funnels and lead generation, and learned a lot about that at Quicken. But his funnel, believe it or not, was radio ads and people at the mall with clipboards that tell you that your kid's cute and they should be a model. And so those were the kind of people that we were calling. And because I wanted to be famous and I wanted to be an actor, I understood that mindset and that sort of passion. So I was really good at it. And his head of sales, Dan Gilbert, the one that actually taught us, he was so good at teaching sales in a simple way that a kid from Polk County could understand it. He would do these little diagrams and give us a bunch of little acronyms. He'd say, enthusiasm. I am sold myself. You know, that's why it ends with IASM. Like, just little stuff every morning. He'd do a 10-minute lesson, and I just applied everything he said, and it was great. But the company was sleazy. The company was, go to the Better Business Bureau, and they were getting reported. And I'm a pretty moral and ethical dude, and so I just kind of felt bad eventually. It's like, making money Wolf of Wall Street style. And so I ended up moving to Cleveland to help another friend open a business. And that's when I met my wife and I had a kid. And long story short, I ended up wanting to get a real job because the business I opened was a sports bar at a college. That certainly wasn't a real job. It was a real fun job. And so Quicken is like the biggest employer in Cleveland. They own the Cavs. So it's like, talk about being legitimate, and I talk about co-branding, right? Like, as you and I know, they licensed the name Quicken to help build trust in the early days. When you say, oh, QuickBooks and TurboTax, like, yeah, that's what the name Quicken comes from. That was not an accident that they licensed that name. It was a very smart play. So between the Quicken name and the owning of the Cavs, I was ready to go down there. I got hired, and I used a lot of the stuff that I learned from Lou Pearlman. But then what was so amazing with Quicken was the systems and the lead generation and the professionalism and the execution is worshipped mindset that they have. If people have never read like the isms, I still think about the isms every single day. It's not about who's right. It's about what's right. A penny saved is a penny. And even in my book, I think I end the book with innovation is rewarded, but execution is worshipped. And so I learned so much there. It was like getting a master's or a PhD in sales. And then just the marketing part of it, you see the machine working. And I absolutely loved it. Long story short, I get hired at Realtor.com because I worked at Quicken. They would have never even given me an interview if I didn't have that on my resume. I started doing outside sales instead of inside sales. I was a really good presenter. I started speaking at national conferences, and I started using social media before most people did. I've already had a podcast with 500 episodes that's ended 5 years ago. I was on Twitter and I had a Facebook page when you'd get 10,000 fans like overnight organically because it was still so new. We used to do classes on Facebook, and we'd pull up Ellen's Facebook page and we'd say, hey, look how many people like her page. And then you could hit refresh and it would go up by like 30,000 people like 5 seconds later. Like, it was like the good old days. So I started blogging, I started doing YouTube, I started doing social media, and I built a really good personal brand for myself before people were talking about personal brands or influencers. I was just sort of early. And that led to some cool opportunities. I worked for a company that got bought by Zillow for $108 million. I started my own company, Curaytor. We made the Inc. list, third fastest growing business in Boston, 300th fastest growing business in the United States. And I ended up selling my shares in Curaytor. I'm now working on, consulting and speaking and have SaaS products that I build. But it all really started with, being in a cubicle and dialing for dollars. It is literally, I come from the boiler room. And you said something before the call that really resonated with me, which is all these companies want to focus on the bottom of the funnel. And I do too. I like money a lot, but they have just neglected the top of the funnel. And the top of the funnel is your brand. The top of the funnel is social media. The top of the funnel is content marketing. It's the fun stuff. And so for me, like, the reason I wrote the conversion code was because people needed help, A, generating high quality leads, B, turning those leads into appointments using technology, automation, and systems. And then C, they needed scripts. I call it the $1 billion sales script, the one in my book, because I learned it working for a billionaire, two billionaires, Dan Gilbert and Lou Pearlman. So that's the synopsis, and happy to share what I know. Like, I've always loved learning, and I've always loved teaching. And so the books, and I give away everything on social for free. I don't do consulting. I don't do coaching. I just try to really give, and it's amazing, like, what comes back to you these days.
Hey, John here, not trying to sell you anything, coming at you with a bunch of hot commission breath. But what this is an FYI, letting you know that we do have a community where we have shared hundreds of posts, hundreds of sales scripts, techniques, tactics, different things to help you grow your business and maximize your 1,440 minutes every day. I'm not sure if it's for you, but it definitely could be for you. So go in there and check it out. CEO1440.com will take you to a place. You can join our free group, give it a sniff test. If you like it, awesome. We've got a lot of other things. We probably would like to sell you something, but right now, that's our gift to you. Get in there, check it out. CEO1440 will take you to a place where you can sign up to be part of our free group. Enjoy the rest of the show. Yeah, you touched on a bunch of different things there, but like coming from, and I see this in a lot of very successful, especially people on the sales side, right? Coming from Polk County, right? Like that little chip on your shoulder that, like, hey, my pedigree here, like the college degree I have doesn't matter. I can just come in and outgrind you. I can just make 10 more phone calls than you. And if I do that every single day, I'll just get better.
Correct.
Right? Like, I'm just going to beat you because you're going to quit way before I do. And I think that's something you mentioned. I see that characteristics in so many people that really crush it on the sales side. Is just the little chip on your shoulder, which I think was Nate. And
all of our heroes
I spent
have
a lot
one.
of years.
Tom Brady has a huge chip on his shoulder. He's the GOAT. Michael Jordan had the biggest chips on his shoulders. He's the GOAT. You have to basically, that has to come from inside you. I think you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and then you mix that, right? So you take a chip, you land inside of a place like Quicken, where and I've done, I was there for a long time. I now have, I think, more years out of Quicken than I do in. But you take that and you start putting it in with, standard operating procedures, and you start adding that. So you get some skills, you add it with a system, and then you actually start to be able to apply leverage.
Yep.
And you know what? Like, your leads convert a lot better. Your different, things happen. So,
what those companies do, John, at least for me, is, you hear about a diamond in the rough. They get rid of the rough. Yeah.
Yeah. And for me, you mentioned, like learning a lot doing phone sales at a young age, right? Calling on Britney Spears. Yeah. For myself personally, I taught I taught ski lessons. I'm certified as full as that you can be teaching skiing. But I was, 19 years old, and I'm teaching, a 46-year-old doctor. And I had to have those conversations, right? Like, I realized I couldn't speak to them on intellect. I had to just be that much better at my craft. So I worked on it more and more and more to be able to get off the bunny hill where you're teaching, little snot-nosed kids to actually doing it. But it came through the skills and just being hungry to learn stuff. So you do all kinds of things. What I'd be really curious about here, so most of our listeners here are probably the bulk of them, more on the lending side than, the real estate side. However, what I'm seeing today is more of an intermingling than probably ever before, in that I think that the lending world has done a disservice to a lot of agents by just offering pre-approvals. Yeah. I really think that they need to be a true partner. Your lead conversion as an agent, I think, is predicated also on how good your lending partners are, how many deals they have, how many options they have. Do they make you look good? Do they make you look bad? Do they have systems in place? And so I guess just my first question for you, since you spend so much time and, like kind of on the agency side is what you were doing with Curaytor and all that, serving agents. What do you think from a lender standpoint, right? If I'm a mortgage broker out there, based on what you know, what is the number one thing I should maybe be focused on today if my goal is to try and serve real estate agents and to help them out?
Well, the best part about realtors is they're admittedly not tech savvy, and they are slow to adopt new technology. So for me, it's just always been training and coaching for free. So you should provide high quality marketing and sales coaching that they don't pay for. And the beauty of the web and social is you can do it at scale for no cost, right? So you can have 1,000 coaching clients. There are a lot of companies that charge a lot of money for coaching, and I give away better advice than most of them without charging for coaching. So you have to think of what is more valuable than the cost that I can give away for free. And now, obviously, if you start getting into one-on-one coaching and you're working really closely with people, you're going to eventually have to charge. But the beauty of being a lender, just like in my world, was you are going to be able to benefit through a way that isn't a direct payment. It's a referral. It's them sending you the best leads, like you said, if you send really good leads. So that's number one, is just like be their strategist. But a lot of loan officers also are not techie, and they're not a social media guru. So I want to give people a really big breakthrough, John. This is enormously important if you're a lender. There are 5 categories on social media that do the best. And it's stuff like thirst traps, right? Beautiful people, kids, animals, food. And guess what the 5th one is? It's houses.
I'm going to say education, but it's probably
It's real
not.
estate. It's homes. It's
Okay.
it's properties. People love house porn. It is one of the most clickable, clickbaity things you can do. See what $1 million buys you right now in Orlando. I can't help but to click on that. See the difference between a $3 million and a $10 million home, right? The listings are the clickiest thing possible. So what I would personally do is I would say, hey, realtor, you don't really want to follow up with a bunch of non-qualified leads. So I will run Facebook ads for your listings, and I will vet and qualify the leads on your behalf. And instead of doing lead generation, you will basically be shifting to appointment generation, because we'll be your inside sales team. Because if you're a lender, you need to call 100 people to get a couple good ones. If you're a lender, there's a much larger addressable pool of people to work with than if you're a realtor. Because you might be able to get 5 people pre-qualified even if they don't care about the listing they found. You might be able to, find a few refis in there too while you're at it, right? Help people consolidate debt. So for every 100 leads a realtor gets, they're lucky if one of them converts. But if you have the systems and follow up and scripts in place as a lender, I was doing 2 deals a day every day at Quicken. Every single day I'd write 2 loans and at least one of them would close, depending on the appraisal and some of the other things that were outside of my control. So I would be, and you can obviously hire people for, go to Upwork. You can hire really inexpensive Facebook advertising experts. And John, when I say clickable, I'm talking about thousands of clicks. I'm talking about hundreds of comments on these ads that we do for listings. And what we do is we don't give the price or the address. That becomes the lead magnet. So, hey, check out this property. Look at these crazy photos. It's a 4-bed, 3-bath. It's got a pool. It's got a, in-law suite. It's got all this stuff. For the price and location, click here. Or for the price and location, leave a comment and we'll DM it to you. That's it. That's the whole secret sauce. But realtors are not boiler room mindset. They're more networkers, relationship, belly to belly. Loan officers are grinders, man. They know that they're dialing for dollars. They know that it's 100 dials to have 5 meaningful conversations to send 2 books out to get 2 books back. So that would be my strategy is I would actually, and I don't know all the RESPA rules, so I'm going to be really careful here, but you're kind of allowed to pay for some of those ads for them. So I would take out a big calculator and say, how much am I actually making from my top partners? And if I'm making a ton of money through the referrals they're sending me, every business in the world is supposed to put 18 to 20% of their revenue back into marketing. So why not look at it and say, man, we made $50,000 last year from Veronica. We're going to put 10,000 of it back into running ads for Veronica, and it's going to be a win-win. So that's where my head goes, just because I have to just say, man, mortgage calculators, see how much money you could save on your refi. Unfortunately for lenders, their thing they sell is not clickbait, but they're adjacent to it.
Hey, John here. If you're anything like me, you like to get in, poke around, you like to check things out before you go diving in head deep. We've got a group where you can do that very thing. CEO1440 is a community. We post in there all the time. There's hundreds of different people, a lot of different conversations, and things that you may be able to take away and apply into your business. Now, the guarantee, I can't make you any guarantees. It's not going to 5X your business, but what it might do, it could 5X your business, probably will give you some things that you can tangibly take away and start applying in your business every single day. Everything we post may not be for you, but it definitely could be for you. So check it out. The group's free. Would love to see you in there. CEO1440.com. Enjoy the rest of the show. That's interesting, running the Facebook ads. A strategy that we've been employing recently is we've got some different tools where our bankers that I work with, we can partner up, and we've got some co-branded apps where we've got some property search features, or even some calculators where there are mortgage calculators where when they run the ad, let's say they're already posting to there, I've got an agent that's got 5,000 people on their Instagram, and they're doing that very thing, right? Like, oh, this beautiful, whatever. And at the bottom, their call to action is, click for the address. Most people will just scroll through the photos. If they're not interested in that house, they'll never click because they're not going there. So we've just added a second CTA, click here. Or if you want it like just dinking around, here's a calculator, a buy versus rent calculator. If you're not ready to buy yet, so we're giving that second option. And what we're seeing there by adding a buy versus rent calculator, that we do lead capture on the back end, right? If somebody fills it out, I get their email, I get all kinds of stuff, that we're then able to actually turn around and give agents back leads of people that clicked on a calculator. The property was, 70 miles that way, but they clicked on the calculator and they're going to buy 50 miles this way. That's worked really well, but I've never thought of actually running Facebook ads to their listing and then still featuring, kind of that the A/B choice at the bottom. I think that's
the other thing I would do, just thinking out loud, but this is, I try to think of what would I 100% do. I would find the best agents with the nicest listings that don't do videos, which is a lot, believe it or not. So I want to find the sweet spot would be a listing agent with a lot of listings in a higher price range. And it is incredibly inexpensive to get a video tour of a listing professionally shot. Vertical, right, for social, horizontal, for YouTube. And I would just, in exchange for that, I would be the ad during the video. That would be all I would really ask for. I would be, like you said, the secondary CTA in the description on YouTube. There's this guy that I'm buddies with. His name is Brad McCullum. He's up in Calgary. And lending stuff is different in Canada, but it's all, it's similar. They have better rates, by the way, right now. But he became the #1 luxury agent in Calgary in 16 months. He had never been a realtor, never sold a home, because he makes the listing the star of the show in an industry where most realtors make themselves the star.
Yeah, I think that's we we see that a lot where, loan officers especially, they tried it right. It's about them. You know, they're selling themselves. Like I like to say, sell the who, not the what.
Yeah.
Like talk to your client. Like they're the person that matters. It's not your particular product doesn't matter. Sell the who, not the
Amen.
what.
Loans are a commodity, my friend. They really are.
What?
They're, countless places to get them. And at least in my experience, they're usually within an eighth or a quarter of a percent, even if you shopped around to 20 different lenders because of the way that interest rates are determined. So yeah, yes, the lender shouldn't be the star. Remember when we were with Quicken, it wasn't so much about the $200 per month you'll save by refinancing. We always wanted to dig deep and figure out what would you like. Do you have anything planned for the $200 if we're able to save it? Do you have a car payment? Yeah. Okay. Are you saving for your kids' college? Like, is that something that's a goal? Okay. So that $200, you kind of Velcro it to something real is more powerful.
Yeah, I hear Alex Hermosi talk all the time about, sell the destination, not the flight.
That's right.
Nobody cares about, the flight, either your first class or whatever, but sell the volcano in Hawaii. That's what people are buying. The mechanism to get there is not as important. What about this? So I like the thing about the 4 places. The house porn is so on, right? I mean, people, that's definitely clickable. I've been really paying a lot of attention recently, and I know maybe we'll jump into Zillow a little bit. But I've been paying a lot of attention to what Rocket's doing, right? Rocket and Redfin combined, like they're a massive thing today. And I'm seeing, the ads that they're getting. They're running a lot of super high up in the funnel ads of things like, hey, you want to, you're curious what your house payment would be on a $500,000 home. And they're just running those ads over and over. And then they have a good enough mechanism on the back end. They'll track you from the day you graduate from college. Like they're right now are looking at closings for, spring buying season 2040.
Correct.
Like that's I think where they're looking is, if they can get a client today for 5-6 years, where most people are looking for a client that's going to buy in October.
That's right.
And they got me too on just an incredible funnel where they showed up in my Gmail, like something about like, see what your home is worth. And you could go in, fill out all these questions. And like what they've done on the back end, how they kind of steer, I didn't even feel like I was being sold. And now they're showing me all these new construction. If I thought about listing, like they're there. And if I had come to you, like if I just came from some other agent, like there's a good chance that they've already wooed me away.
Yeah.
And then you've got some really cool stuff on Zillow.
Well, let me say one thing
There's
before you pull that up, because there's 2 takeaways for people they should write down, which is one is you're putting yourself into the funnel of the best companies in your space. So that is like a action item, like be a lead and watch what happens and look at the way that they handle a lead and kind of do an A/B test compared to how you handle a lead. And that would go from everything from response time, the methods through which they follow up, phone, text, and email, the type of content they send, the subject lines they use. Like, put yourself in the funnel, like be a lead. And then number 2 is you can see, like with the whole like Facebook, Russia, that whole era of like they needed to be much more radically transparent. You can actually see every single ad that Rocket and Redfin are running right now. They have to show it. It's called the Facebook ads library. Has every ad for Facebook and every ad for Instagram for every company in the world. So yeah, like go and see what Open Door's doing. Go and see what Wells is doing. Go and see what B of A is doing. Go and see what some of these more tech savvy startups are doing with some of their advertising. That is a huge best practice, is to sort of go and stalk your competition and kind of ride on the shoulders of giants. That's what we call it, because they have data scientists, they have CMOs that, used to work at Twitter and now they work at Redfin. Like, they have some really sharp folks running their advertising and marketing campaigns. And so, don't be so bitter and mad at these other companies that you can't see the forest through the trees of actually learning and studying.
Hey, if you're listening to this, quick reminder, we have a free group, CEO1440.com. Jump in there. Tons of posts, tons of information, a lot of stuff we're bringing day in, day out to help you do more with your 1,440 minutes every single day. CEO1440.com. Check it out. I think that, I like to say this, that different is better than better. Mm-hmm. Right? Anytime I'm trying to be better, it's an improvement offer. I can't do an improvement. They have 500 people and, they spend 250 million a month probably on marketing. Like, I can't be better than them. Yep. But what I can do is look at what they're doing, say, what things can I, as just little old me, do? And then what things can I do better? There's one thing I know I can do better. Like, when we have loans in process, I actually recommend that every loan officer on Tuesdays of every week, they leave a personalized video to their client, to the agents, personalized to that person. You actually take your phone and record. Hey, here's where your loan's at. We got your flood cert came in. Well, people don't care about a flood cert. Well, if you don't tell them that you're doing it, they don't appreciate that you did something. Like a video to every single person. Rocket can't do that. Not today. They will probably soon. Like, AI will do it and it will pump it out. Yeah. But different is better. And you just see the things they're doing and say, okay, I can do that. I can do it inside of my community. And
there's a great quote from Silicon Valley: do things that don't scale. That's what you're saying. Yeah. And with things like BombBomb and Loom, these are tools that make what you're suggesting super simple. But it absolutely could be as simple as a text message with a video. But we used to call it the no update. Even if there's nothing to update, give them an update. The weekly check-in is a smart idea. It's required by some of the top realtors in the world, where, I'm building a product that provides seller reports, that use AI that make it just faster than manually grabbing all the data and screenshotting all this stuff. But like, the biggest misconception when a listing expires, which is going to happen more and more because days on the market's going up, and right. So the biggest misconception is that people don't use their realtor when it expires again because we're unhappy with their marketing and the exposure that the property got. That's not the case. They didn't like the communication. The communication is the reason they fire you.
Yeah, 100%. I like that whole, like, I think of lenders, we put so much effort into, and maybe this is the exact same on the real estate side. We put so much effort into getting the client pre-qualified. That's like the crescendo, and then everything drips down. Agents spend so much effort finding the listing, and then everything drips off. Getting the pre-approval or the listing should be the bottom. The experience should actually get better because you're closer to making dollars off of that person now. Like, take care of them even better. And I tell people, if you knew that client, because of these updates, that you were communicating better, the client was going to send me 2 referrals over the next 2 years. And let's say I just made $5,000 off of each referral. That's $10,000. The agents, between both agents on the other side as a lender, I could expect 4 deals from those agents, 1 every 6 months, 4 deals. That's a total of 6 deals. And even if I only make $5,000 off each, that's $30,000. Is it worth doing that video if my ROI over a 24-month window is 30 grand? People, oh yeah, for sure. Yet they won't do it because it's not immediate. And it's short-sighted, and your clients leave you. They don't remember who you are because you weren't that memorable.
LTV is what you're talking about, lifetime value. I studied this tremendously for my first book, People Work. And, I'm over here sipping on my Starbucks. The LTV at Starbucks is $18,000 per person. It's not $6 or $7 for the one drink. So what they do is, the reason they don't mind if you sit there all day and use their Wi-Fi, they never ask you to leave. They have clean, nice environments. is because they're treating people like the lifetime value, not the transactional value. And I think you just hit on something really easy to like for people to remember. It's a $30,000 text message. Like, if you knew you're going to make $30,000, you'd absolutely do a video and send the text. So I think the best brands and companies, they really understand LTV. And, you know, people would always ask us, John, like, how do I get more reviews? It's like, be memorable. You know, like you just said, like, if they don't use you again, it isn't because they forgot you. It's because they, you know, weren't impressed enough by you. And like, let that bother you. I think people should look at their SOPs from the time that they write the loan or from the time that they get the listing until close. And where can we put some pixie dust on that process? Like there was a realtor in San Francisco. She's working in the high-end market, super competitive. Nobody just goes with the first person. Like a lot of times people just go with the first person. So what she would do is the day after the listing appointment, she would show back up and she'd knock on their door, and she had bought them a plant. And she forgot to give it to him the day before at the listing appointment. And she forgot on purpose, of course. She wanted to come back the next day to do something memorable and different. And she said like 8 or 9 times out of 10, they would actually sign the listing agreement the next day when she showed up with the plant. That's magic, right? That's the kind of strategy, consumer experience people should be finding.
Yeah, that's the being different is better than better.
Correct.
Right? If I can show up. I just recently had a closing and I bought a massive playscape. Like this thing, it took the people like almost 3 weekends to build, but they're in their 30s. They've got a lot of friends that don't own homes. So every time somebody comes to their house and sees this massive playscape for their kids in the backyard, I put a billboard in their backyard. I could have given them a bottle of, I could have given them a $500 gift card to Home Depot. It was more, but it wasn't memorable. It's anybody can do that, right? So how can just anybody listening, different is better than better. So go in and do something that's a little bit different. And
for a recommended reading on this, Purple Cow by Seth Godin is a must read for anybody in marketing, especially when you're in a highly competitive industry. And it literally is just about the idea that, you know, if you want to stand out, the cow better be purple, not black or white.
Yeah, I have not read that. And I actually was looking at my Audible today. I have like 9 credits. That one.
He's like the OG, man. Seth Godin's the best marketing mind of all time, in my opinion, is either him or David Ogilvy. David Ogilvy, who's kind of like a Mad Men era executive. His book is called On Advertising. And yeah, their advice is just 100% spot on. It's just that, as you know, back to the quote earlier, people know what they need to do, John. You know, they know if they need to change. They know if they need to improve their funnels. It's just, you got to make it a priority. Like I would not be able to sleep good at night if my online presence was not on point.
Yeah, there's intentionally or unintentionally, everything we do in today's world, we're building a brand. And and that goes from the second you say hello with a client, you know, all the way through. Like if people aren't sending you referrals, it's because you weren't that good. You weren't that memorable. You didn't really have a brand, and you have an opportunity today. I mean, I tell people you're probably running 5 to 7 CRMs. Oh no, I only have one CRM. I'm like, well, what about Instagram? I saw you there. You have Facebook. Yep. I saw you commenting on other people's posts. That's part of a CRM because that's part of your strategy. So if you don't have strategies around these things, you're just missing out. Well, let me ask you, like, we're kind of getting close on time here. I know you've got a hard stop. What, if you were to start today, let's say going back to Loan Officer 101, I took away everything you had. You got to keep your knowledge. And the only job that hadn't been replaced by AI was becoming a loan officer. What would be the initial things that you would do? Maybe you're like big 3 if between now and the end of the year you had to start closing loans and making money, what would be like the big thing or the big couple of things that you would do if you were starting out as a loan originator today? Hey, I want to get a quick message to you here about adding value. And our industry is terrible at telling you, do this, do that. So many people want to add value to you, but value is not in what I give. It's what you receive and whether it makes sense for you or not. We've got a community, CEO1440, where we post every single day, lots of things, sales scripts, a whole plethora of things. So I don't know what particular things are going to add value to you. They probably all won't, but definitely some of them will. The community is free. Would love for you to get in there, sniff around, poke around, and maybe there's more stuff we can do. But I know it starts because if you're anything like me, you like to get in there, check things out on your own before you go and sign up for some large commitment. So get in there, check out our group. I bet that there's something in there and there's little things that you can do that had you known 6 months ago, you'd be making more money today. Join the group. Look forward to seeing you in there. Have a great day and enjoy the rest of the show.
The first thing I would do is I would seek out and figure out who the top local lender in my city was, and I would want to go work there because there is such a big gap between the people that have everything dialed in and the people that are just average at best. And so typically they have more leads than they can handle. And meanwhile, there's, brokers sitting on their hands right now because they don't have any leads. So what is the Quicken Loans of your area, basically? Who is the best of the best? And I would also make sure that they paid a really good commission, because at the end of the day, you're going to write however many loans you write. But Quicken fed the fat. That was one of their sayings. And if you kicked ass, you made a lot of money. And so I would make sure that it wasn't just like, we were talking about Zillow and they take 40% of the commission. Like, no, I want to keep as much money as possible and make as much money as possible when I succeed, right? Like, I'm not looking for a handout, but I would think about that. The other thing I would do, and I would do this really strategically, is I would set up a one-on-one Zoom call with every single person that I know. To your point, I'd be in the DMs on Instagram, I'd be in my Facebook Messenger, I'd be in my contacts on my phone, texting. And what I'm looking to do is I'm looking to basically ask them as many questions as possible. Not necessarily, hey, I'm a loan officer now. Do you need to refinance? Are you looking to buy a house soon? Absolutely not. I would go in and I would pick their brain about what they think the best experience is what is the best experience you've ever had when you bought a home regarding the loan process? What are some of the pain points that you've experienced, right? So you're really getting them to be able to kind of vent to you about the most frustrating parts of the process that they've gone through. And that becomes your ammo for your talk tracks in the future. But just that's a lot better than, hey, I'm a lender now, send your referrals to me. No, these are relationships, like you said, of the 150 people you do these Zoom calls with. I would actually get their permission to record it. I would end up creating content from that, like this is just a Zoom call, basically. And then that would be my introduction to the fact that I was a loan officer. And then the third thing I would do is I would have a couple hour chat with Claude or ChatGPT, and I would come up with the right content marketing strategy for me, meaning, what am I going to post? Where am I going to post it? How often am I going to post it? Ideally, it's videos. Ideally, it's, Insta, TikTok, Facebook, LinkedIn, X. There's only so many platforms, YouTube Shorts, etc. But you have to treat your marketing and your content as a system as well. You can't just do random acts of social media and expect to get business from it. But what I would be looking for in that chat is I would be looking for what you've said a couple times now. What can I do that's different? What can I do that's unique? What can I do that's valuable? What can I do that is worth paying for, but I do for free? Like a realtor, You can go to Zillow and get your home's value. Could be, off, up or down. But a realtor normally only does a CMA, which takes more time and goes deeper into the comps. They usually only do that if they have a listing appointment. Well, we tell realtors, you need to do a CMA-a-thon. You need to do a CMA for every single person that you know, whether they're looking to sell their home anytime soon or not. Because that, back to your point, is incredibly memorable and people appreciate it. We actually have screenshots of the people that reply to this because we just go on DMs, man. You can do email, but DMs just get almost like instant responses. Hey, I'm setting aside some time today to put together a CMA for some of my favorite people like you. Do you want one? You don't need to be selling your house anytime soon. Your equity's gone up quite a bit in the last 12 months. It's kind of nice to know exactly, how much there is. It's not a Zactimate. It's not, it's a Zestimate. I can give you a Zactimate, something along those lines. So what is the LO version of that? Running the numbers. Like, what most people want, John, is I think out loud here, is they just want the good faith estimate. They want the GFE. They want the bottom line numbers. How can I provide that at scale without the person having to actually talk to me? So, and even with the CMA-a-thon that we do, when the CMA is ready, we don't just say, hey, here's a link, check it out. We put it on a screen and record the screen and say, hey, wanted to walk you through this. But they don't have to talk to you. That I think is really powerful too. So it would be working for someone that's amazing. It would be one-on-one-a-thon, and then it would be content marketing strategy. And some people, they should do audio, not video. Some people, they should write. Some people should do, cool graphics and charts and numbers and analytical stuff. But yeah, those are the three things I would do.
Yeah, I think that's awesome, right? I mean, a CMA-a-thon. Mm-hmm. People want data. There's not a lack of information. We have more information than ever. I think that there's a lack of what do I actually do with the information? And more people than ever, I feel, actually need somebody to tell them exactly what to do.
Correct. Context.
And I can go to, so if I can come in and be the expert and, I crunch numbers for people, or I let them see something, or I give them a non-sales place to go, right? Like, come check it out first without being sold. And I think that people are terrified to get on a call because they feel like they're going to be sold. Yeah. Like, give them whatever they want, because if you do it right, you're going to get some business out the backside. So I did want to talk about this, right? Like, Chris breaks the internet. Mm-hmm. You have been just some posts that are just on fire, talking about Zillow, right? The CEO used their methodology and couldn't sell his house. And I like to equate from a lending standpoint. Mm-hmm. If I pre-approve a client and I don't ask them, we have a tool internally where we send our clients to go and search for their homes, trying to keep them off of the internet. I try to do everything in my power to keep them off of Zillow. But that being said, right, like, they end up there, but you've just kind of you've been bashing on Zillow. I think it's so funny because if you let your client go to Zillow, it's like letting your daughter go to a frat house. If you lose clients there, it's your own fault. And you've just been beating on them, but getting, I think, a lot of just press. Were you surprised at how well those posts did? How many people were coming out of the woodwork?
Well, yes and no. I mean, I can call my shot a little bit. I have a system and a strategy, so I share everything on Twitter first, and then I look at how it performs. And if it does better than average, then I go to IG, then I go to Facebook and give it a little bit of a broader push, because I have bigger engagement numbers on IG than I do on Twitter. But Twitter is where I kind of can test my ideas. There are certain keywords that just crush it. Like Zillow is one of them in our industry. People have a visceral reaction to one side or the other when you mention Zillow. I think it's really a tricky conversation, though, when you're a realtor, because, somebody could be like, you said you don't want your daughter at the frat house. She's going anyway, man. Ideally, she's not going, but there's a pretty good chance she's going to go to some parties when she's in college. And so you just have to be realistic about that. And I think the wrong approach, if I'm a local lender, if I'm a realtor, is you don't want to tell them that their date is ugly. That, like, when you get defensive, that is when I actually think it doesn't go well, because they might have been using Zillow for 3 years, looking at their Zestimate, looking at properties, they love it. And then, you just kind of can really come across as like bitter. So what I would say would be, and the post that you're mentioning was very data driven. The post was, they were facts. They were not my opinion. The CEO of Zillow sold his home for 40% less than the Zestimate. Zillow lost $885 million trying to use their own algorithm to buy homes from people. Zillow lost $38 billion in market cap when they shut that division down. So I would definitely have, like, in a listing presentation or in my collateral, I would have screenshots of some of this stuff. But I would present it in a way that's like, hey, I love Zillow. I use Zillow. If I'm walking down the street and I see a lawn sign, I pull up Zillow. I don't pull up Frank the Realtor's website to try to find it. But there might be some stuff you don't know, the truth about Zillow. And part of what I talk about too is, like, if you go to the bottom of Zillow and you click on Zestimates, they actually have a really in-depth page that breaks down how close they are on their guesses, city by city, metro by metro. So it isn't that some places they're actually pretty damn good. It's pretty close. But the bottom line would be that you don't want to go overly negative. You want to kind of be factual, not opinionated. What you said a second ago, I actually am huge on opinions. Like, have an opinion about the market, have an opinion about the rates, have an opinion about the Fed. Like, I think people need to have opinions on social media. And if you think about the news is not the news anymore. The news is opinions about the news. So, like, a lot of people are still marketing like people care about the news. No, they care about your opinion of the news. So I think that the best people in these industries that we're talking about, they're willing to take a stance on something. It's not about politics, right? It's about, I'm an expert at what I do. Like, I put out an idea the other day, which is like, I think 5.99 is this magic moment for interest rates that is going to be like a dam bursting with applications. And so you were saying earlier, like, market for the future. We did these amazing campaigns that were like, do you want to be notified when rates hit 5.99? We'll keep an eye on them for you and we'll let you know right away. Even though we don't even know when that's going to be. It could be next year. What's your home worth? What will your home be worth in 2030? I would run ads like that all day long. So yeah, man, this has been a really enjoyable talk. X's and O's, execution is worshipped, be different, be great, have an opinion, lean on systems. I'm a big X-Files guy. The truth is out there, John. People know what they need to do. It's really just about making it a priority and letting it bother you if you're not executing on these things that we're talking about today.
Yeah, well, this has been fantastic. I will include inside of here a whole bunch of show notes, different things. Chris has a ton of stuff that he just puts out all over the place, multiple books, multiple different stuff. We'll put it in the show notes. But this has been awesome. I am happy that I stumbled upon your stuff online. I've purchased your book. I will definitely will check it out. And this has just been cool.
Yeah, use one of those Audible credits, man. You got.
Yeah, no, I already did. That's how I found out I had 9. My podcasts just make it so easy to get, like, I can get stuff from you up to date.
Exactly.
I don't have to go back, but sometimes the book provides a lot of nuance and ties it all together. Right. So this has been awesome. I will also, there's this whole thing. I'll include this. Cool. We've got a community. I'll link back to it so you can see Chris Breaks the Internet. This has been great, Chris. It's been awesome. Good luck out there and have a great day.
John. Good stuff.
Thank you.